Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here again, and thanks to Helga. I'm very glad to participate in Schiller Institute's event, and I'm very happy to be in Paris, my most favorite city. So, really happy here. But I'll take you now to Asia, and maybe the map is missing, but...
Can you put the map?
Do they have it? Yeah, the next one. No. Yeah, this is the map of Asia. What I'm going to suggest is that this 21st century will be the Asian century. You may not believe it, and even I have my doubts, but I think if we work together, it will be the Asian century, because Asia is so rich in culture, in history, in resources, in number of people, and so many of us are there who are actually rising and growing faster than anybody else. India is growing fast, China is growing fast. We are actually growing faster than China today, but China has had 30 years of very high growth, and we have India, China, but we have two very difficult countries in between. And these are the two countries with which India has geopolitical problems and had wars. I mean, in between is Pakistan, and with China, we've had one problem. But otherwise, for 5,000 years, I mean, our history is 5,000 years, but for 2,000 years, China and India have been very, very close. And so I think Mr. Modi's visit to China recently has again cemented the ties between the two countries, and it was a very successful visit. He not only had 22 agreements signed between the two countries, but he also, which of course led to $24 billion of business, but he also went to the cultural aspect, and he visited the Wild Goose Pagoda, where about in 750 AD, I think one Chinese scholar had gone to India and brought back Buddhist manuscripts, and he visited that pagoda where he used to actually live. So that is something that we are having recently, and what he said was very important, I think. And he said that the prospects of the 21st century becoming the Asian century will depend in large measure on what India and China can achieve, not only on what India and China can achieve individually, but what they can do together. So what I propose is a cooperation between, the next slide, please. India and China have a long history, and we've had a small war because of the line between dividing India and China by the British. The Chinese did not accept it, so there was a little skirmish, but that is over now. And Prime Minister Modi's visit, I've just discussed. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, Nepal is a very small country. It is described as a yam between two boulders, like a small vegetable between two big stones. On one side is China. I think in the next slide you'll see that this one. Nepal is like a little vegetable in between two big boulders. And Nepal is a very poor country. And so I think it has a lot of problems. You must have heard about the earthquake, and Nepal is actually one of the least developed countries in the world, but it is most beautiful, and it has got such spectacular mountains and landscape that people go there to see Nepal just for anything. Then poverty never it does not you don't notice poverty when you go to Nepal because it's so beautiful. So actually, when I went to Nepal recently and I proposed this, which has also been proposed by many people before me, a cooperation between China, Nepal, and India, so that we two big countries can help Nepal develop. Otherwise, it will remain extremely poor and full of civil war. I mean, it was already, I think they had years of civil war, which just ended in 2006, and they've had instability, they've underdeveloped. So China and India can help Nepal, and how you can actually see that China can reach Tibet through Nepal much faster than through a road through Beijing or Shanghai or somewhere. So what China can do is to build a road, which it already has, and India, Nepal, and China can be connected, and Tibet can get food supplies from Nepal straight away by having some food processing units in Nepal. That will also increase the employment in Nepal. So China can also, next slide please, outsource some of its, China is facing high cost and rising cost as happens with all rich countries. The labor costs start rising. So China can outsource some of its manufacturing, the assembly line things to Nepal, the simpler things to Nepal. And it can help in employing people in Nepal. A road through China to Nepal will reduce in the huge deficit that India has with Nepal also. The next slide, please. Yeah, this is the Nepal's devastation. And you can see how much they need. Next slide, please. Now, so between China and Nepal, there can be a trade, much more increased trade, much more outsourcing, much more employment. And between India and Nepal, we actually have no border. So Nepalese are working in India, and they're earning money, going back and forth. There's hardly any restriction. But there are a lot of non-tariff barriers to trade from Nepal to India, which we are trying to see that they are less and less, because Nepal is very unhappy about the huge trade deficit it has with India. So if we have a nice, good road between India and Nepal, which we already have many roads, but China can help us build a better road, so there can be more trade between India and Nepal also. So Nepal gets help from both sides, from India and Pakistan and China, and then develop. So next slide, please. So basically, there is not much problem between India and Nepal and China. I think it is possible. Yet, I think the Chinese and the Nepalese are more interested in the trade part of it. India is getting slightly enthusiastic, And this is the little area in red, which is the actually geopolitical problem, where China and Pakistan, which is the third country I'm going to talk about, is actually disputed territories there, and Kashmir is the main problem. So with Pakistan, India has had 3 wars, but Pakistan can become a good neighbor. We can help them to develop. It's only got 191 million people. We have 1.3 billion people. China has 1.2 billion people. And Nepal has 29 million people. So this is the population. Pakistan is also very, very, very poor. It could be called a failed state because so many problems are there. It has got terrorism. It has got wobbly economy, shaky economy, inflation. It's got a lot of inequality. So Pakistan can become a good neighbor and develop through our help. So next slide, please. As you can see, Nepal and Pakistan are so small in terms of foreign direct investment coming to the region. China is the star, India is next to it, and Pakistan little less, and Nepal you can hardly see. So the development is development is needed in Pakistan, and what we need to do is to open up trade with Pakistan. India needs to. But there is usually there's a lot of smuggling, but only $2 billion worth of trade. It's all going through third countries via Dubai. It's coming to India, from India via Dubai to Pakistan. The consumers, the ordinary people are suffering. And so actually, we want to open up trade. India has given the most favored nation, that MFN status to Pakistan in '98. But Pakistan is so afraid that our goods will swamp their country and their industries will go out of business. So Pakistan is refusing to give us the same, equal status, which is called MFN in the jargon. So Pakistan has still not given, and it is still going on through the third country, three-cornered trade, or by smuggling. They're very scared of even giving us more access in investment. We are scared of putting our money there in Pakistan. So the investment across the border is very little, hardly any. So this is something that I think India, Pakistan should sort out. And the two countries are same people, same language. I mean, the religions are different, but when we meet people-to-people contact, it's so warm. They love our music, we love their music. It's like, it's just politics, and the government is the army, Pakistani army. They want to keep the war machine going. That's why they don't want any peace. Otherwise, the two countries can become very close, and Pakistan can become a very developed country. So this is what I think is possible. And China is helping Pakistan a lot. So next slide, please. I just want to show you the kind of human development index and the educational literacy. I mean, look at the kind of backwardness that all the three countries are having, India, Pakistan, and Nepal. I think the top part is missing. Yeah. The first column is India, the second is Nepal, and the third is Pakistan. So you can see that education, literacy is quite good, and then employment of labor force, then I'm talking about unemployment, poverty, inequality, proportion of poverty, people living below $1.25. Human Development Index is extremely low for all three. And Human Development Indicator also. Then gender inequality is extremely bad in both India and in Pakistan. In Nepal, the women are very active. They work very hard. They make a lot of things and sell in the market. They're very, very hardworking. In Nepal, the gender equality is much better than in Pakistan and India. So, I mean, looking at this profile, you can think that, so much can be done if we are together. And so, the last thing, what I want to emphasize is that China is also already helping Pakistan. It has given $46 billion recently for a road from which goes via Kashmir, the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, to Gwadar, which is a port. And so there was a lot of fear in India generated that, well, what is China trying to, go through Kashmir and even building a road. But I think it's it's going to make the region much more prosperous. It's going to give access for the Central Asian countries to the port, because they are landlocked. They can also reach Gwadar. It will give access to Afghanistan, which is near us, which is near Pakistan. But Pakistan still does not allow Indian goods to pass through Pakistan to go to Afghanistan. So that again has to be sorted out. So there are so many things that can be done, but are not being done, which this road will probably help. But I'm very optimistic that with this kind of cooperation between the three countries, there can be some sort of, regional development which will benefit the ordinary people of these countries. So, how much time do I have? No, it's finished. Oh, yeah. Okay. So basically, this is what I wanted to. I just want to point out about India also. I'm sure you want to know how India is doing, because we are surrounded by countries which are not doing so well. India is growing at about 7.4% growth rate, and China is 7%, so we are ahead of China, but in a way, we are far behind them in every other way because, they've had accumulated development for so many years, and their GDP is at least 8 times more than ours. Ours is $1.8 trillion. Theirs is about 10 point something trillion dollars. And our per capita income is also much less. So I think what India is trying to do is to have more spread out growth, more to the state. They've given more autonomy to the states. So now under Modi's government, there is the states can now take charge of the health sector, of the education sector, which are the weakest sectors in India. And so basically, industrial growth is also growing quite fast. It was about 8.4% in from January till March, but before that it was minus, and service sector is growing very, very fast. Nepal service sector is also growing fast. So the two can go together, grow together and have collaboration. And so India's main problem, I would say, today is agriculture, and we are really in trouble about agriculture, and we can do a lot by importing certain vegetables from Nepal. So can China. China can also import vegetables. Both of us are facing problems, both China and India are facing problems of adulteration of food and contamination. Like, the groundwater is all poisonous in China as in India because we've used too much fertilizers for the crops. So for Nepal can easily supply horticultural products to both India and to China. So this is, agriculture is much purer, organically organically grown in Nepal. So that is how I see it, that we should all change our ecosystems and, try to be less, have another green revolution and have more fertilizers. We must get back. I think China is doing the same. It's also slowing down on the use of fertilizers and on fast-growing crops, etc. So this is the problem, and I think with all these ideas of cooperation, the trilateral cooperation and the bilateral cooperation between India and Pakistan, the region can become prosperous again, and the region can become a place where, there is hope, every person is got something to look forward to, and they will help make the Asian century. Thank you very much. Thank you.